You're standing at the checkout, physical store, online, doesn't matter, and there's a half second before you confirm the purchase where something flickers, not doubt exactly. More like a question you almost hear. Do I want this, or do I want someone to see me with it? You push the question down. You complete the purchase. The package arrives 3 days later, and you feel fine, then nothing, then a little less than nothing. You don't think about that question again. Not for a while. Part 1. The purchase. You're 26, maybe 28. You have a job that pays enough to live and a little left over, and you spend that little left over the way most people do, on things that look like the life you're supposed to be building. The jacket, the dinner out, the concert tickets you posted before you even left the venue, the headphones that cost $340 when $80 ones would have done the same job, the trip you slightly overstretched for because the photos would be good. None of these feel like bad decisions in the moment. Each one comes with a small hit of something. Warmth, belonging, the sense that you are, in fact, doing okay, that you are a person who has things and goes places and doesn't need to be worried about. Here's what no one tells you. Nearly 40% of Americans have overspent to impress someone else. The number jumps to 52% for people under 30. Not because they're reckless or stupid, but because the logic is almost invisible. You're not buying a jacket. You're buying a version of yourself that you want other people to believe in. The transaction isn't between you and the product. It's between you and a hypothetical audience you've been performing for so long, you've forgotten their hypothetical. And the receipts pile up quietly. 27% of people who overspend to impress others are currently in debt because of it. Not catastrophic debt, usually. Just the low-grade kind that makes certain conversations uncomfortable and certain months tighter than they need to be. You don't feel like a statistic. You feel like someone who just has good taste. Part 2, the audience. At some point you get a phone, then a better phone, then an account, then a feed, then a highlight reel of your own life that you curate without quite realizing you're curating it. Social media didn't create the need to impress people. That instinct is old, evolutionary even. We evolved in groups where acceptance meant survival. The part of your brain that cares what others think isn't broken. It's ancient. But social media gave that instinct a stage, a permanent 24-hour stage with a like counter attached. And so the spending gets subtly reoriented. Not always consciously. You don't think, I am buying this so I can post it. You think, I like this. But somewhere in the background, you're calculating how this will look, who will see it, what it says about you. 49% of Americans say social media pressures them to spend on things they don't need. Among people under 25, that number is 65%, which means if you're in a group of 3 friends scrolling the same feeds, 2 of you are being pushed toward purchases you wouldn't otherwise make. And none of you are talking about it. You are performing. The audience is real enough. Your friends, your coworkers, a loose orbit of people from your past, but their attention is not. They are watching their own feeds, managing their own impressions, half present in their own highlight reels. The audience you are spending for is mostly in your head. 1 comment, 82 likes, puts it simply. When there is no audience, there is no pressure to play the game. You don't think about that yet, but the thought is waiting. Part 3, the first quiet. It starts small. A weekend where you don't buy anything you didn't need. A month where you let one impulse pass, the thing you almost added to cart, the dinner that was more about being seen at the place than the food. You don't announce it. You just don't do it. And you wait for something to happen. Nothing happens. No one notices. No one asks where the new thing is. The version of you that didn't make the purchase and the version of you that did, they look exactly the same to everyone else. Because here's the part the spending never told you. You were mostly not the subject of other people's attention to begin with. They were too busy managing their own. Research from the Journal of Happiness Studies found that buying something to impress others, even an experience, not just an object, wipes out the psychological benefit of the purchase entirely. The happiness you would have gotten disappears. What you're left with is the cost and the vague feeling that you're still waiting for something. The first time you let a purchase go, you feel the absence of that cost. It's not dramatic. It's more like setting down something heavy that you'd gotten so used to carrying you'd stopped, noticing the weight. There's also something else, a small unfamiliar sensation of making a decision that is entirely yours. not shaped by a feed, not triggered by someone else's photo, not justified by a vague social logic of this is what people like us do. Just, you looked at the thing, you thought about it honestly, and you let it go. Your account has a little more in it at the end of the month. Not a lot, but it's yours in a way that feels different, quieter, more solid. You start letting more things pass. Part 4. The social friction. Here is the part most videos don't mention. When you pull back from the spending, from the performances, from the keeping up, the people still running the race notice. Not all of them, but some. It starts as questions. Why didn't you come to that dinner? You're not getting the new phone? You seem different. Are you doing okay? The questions are gentle at first. Concerned, even. Then they shift. The comments get slightly pointed. The invitations start to thin. Someone says something to someone else. You're being weird? You think you're better than everyone? You got lucky somehow? You're judging them by not participating. You said nothing. You just stopped buying. But your absence from the game reads to people still in it as a verdict. One comment, 41 likes. He forgot the part where people stop the pity and start hating you, like you cheated somehow or got lucky. This is the friction no one prepares you for. The spending wasn't just about objects, it was social adhesive. It kept you legible to a certain group of people. When you stop, some of those connections loosen. Not because you changed who you are, because you stopped paying the entry fee. This is uncomfortable. Let it be uncomfortable. Because what you're finding out, slowly, through the friction itself, is which relationships were held together by shared performance and which ones were held together by something else. Some of them thin out, some of them don't. The ones that don't tend to be the ones worth keeping. Part 5. The real account. 18 months in, maybe 2 years. You open your banking app on a Tuesday with no particular reason, and for the first time in memory, the number doesn't make you feel behind. You have $6,000 saved, maybe more. Not because you earned dramatically more, your salary is roughly the same. But you stop redirecting money toward an audience that wasn't watching. $300 a month. That's all it takes to shift the trajectory. $300 a month not spent on things purchased to impress people who, statistically, 1 in 4 of them you will not even be in contact with in 5 years. That's from a Lending Tree study of people who overspent to impress others. 1/4 of them are no longer in contact with the person they were spending for. You sit with that number for a moment. The things you bought in the years before, most of them are gone. Donated, broken, quietly deleted from the algorithm. The experiences you performed for photos, you remember the photos more than the moments. The dinners you went to for the social appearance of going. You remember the parking, the awkward silences, the check. The money you didn't spend, you don't miss a single thing. Not one specific item. You can't even remember most of them. The account balance, though, that's still there. And it compounds. You're not rich. But you are, for the first time in a long time, not performing solvency. You are actually solvent. There is a difference between those two things that is almost impossible to describe to someone still on the other side of it. One is exhausting. The other is just quiet, sustainable. Yours. Part 6. The moment no one sees. At some point, you won't know when it happens exactly. And you won't be able to mark it on a calendar. You will be able to afford the thing you used to want. The jacket that cost too much. The car that would have turned heads. The vacation you would have overstretched for. You could buy it now without the financial damage. And you don't want to. Not because you became ascetic or joyless. Not because you think spending is wrong. But because the wanting was never really about the thing. It was about being seen having it. And somewhere in the past 2 years, you stopped needing that, not as a discipline, not as a practice, just quietly, as a fact. 77% of people who overspent to impress others say they regret it. But the regret isn't really about money. It's about time. About years spent performing for an audience that was never quite paying attention, running a race with no finish line for people who were also running and also not watching. The moment you stop, the real stop, not the decision, but the actual internal shift, it doesn't look like anything from the outside. Your apartment is the same. Your car is the same. Your clothes are roughly the same. But you know something that's hard to explain to anyone still in the race. The most expensive thing you ever owned wasn't an object. It was the version of yourself you kept buying to show other people. When you stop buying that, you find out what's actually underneath. And that part, Nobody else gets to see it. It's just yours. Subscribe if you want to keep building it.